Welcome back, everybody, to yet another edition of #Griffs Sports. I am Joe Rutigliano.
And I'm Roxanne Hernandez. We have a great show lined up for you today with recaps of all the weekend's actions from all of our teams.
Also, we'll have Alex Beilman in the studio to talk about the Griffs hockey team as they begin their playoff push. And super freshman Lauren DeHaan of the women's basketball team will also be in studio. But let's get straight to the action.
Well, we'll start with men's basketball. They hosted both Quinnipiac and Fairfield this weekend. On Thursday, Quinnipiac was welcomed into the Kessler Center by a raucous crowd. However, the Griffs could not keep pace with the Bobcats and would fall by a score of 88-81. In a game that was led by Quinnipiac for the majority of the contest by 10 or more points, the Griffs were able to cut the lead to just 3 points with under a minute to play. The slow start to the game put the Griffs in a hole despite the Griffs scoring 32 points in the final 5 minutes of the game. The Griffs were led by Billy Barron yet again with 31 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds. Chris Manhertz also added 14 points in his return from injury.
And on Saturday afternoon, the Fairfield Stags got off to a hot start and led the Griffs by a score of 45-38 at the break. The Griffs started the second half on a bit of a run when just about all hell broke loose. A foul by Jordan Heath sparked a shoving match that ended in Fairfield guard KJ Rose being ejected from the game. Jordan Heath was given a technical foul, giving Fairfield 2 free throws, along with 3 technical fouls given to Marist, resulting in 6 free throws for the Griffs. Billy Barron would take all 6, make 5 of them. That would be the turning point, cutting the lead to 1, and the Griffs would overcome the deficit to pick up a much-needed 90-78 victory. The Griffs were led by Billy Barron, who else? 22 points, 9 assists, and 4 rebounds. Zach Lewis back into the swing of things after having a couple of cold games with 21 points and 6 boards.
That's right. The Griffs are now 19-10 overall and 13-5 in conference play as they head into the last weekend of regular season play. Now let's head to Studio B to talk with Kyle Ferrara and John Langley about the outlook for MAAC basketball as the postseason approaches. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Joe and Rox. Kyle Ferrara, John Langley. John Langley likes to consider himself the Richie Incognito of Griffin TV, whatever that means. We're here to talk to you today about MAAC power rankings first and foremost. We'll preview the Griffs weekend coming up here as well. John, some changes at the top and right in the middle for the power rankings. We'll look at the top 6 right now and take us through. Let's look at 6 through 4 first.
Well, 6, Ryder fell from 5 to 6, and that's just because they've been uneven here for a while. They win one, win a couple, lose a couple. They're not really beating anyone that's top, but they're kind of taking care of business of who they should. They're a 9-9 team, and that's exactly what they are. But Siena jumps them to number 5, and the big reason is they beat Manhattan last week. And the funniest part about that is Manhattan went to the free throw line 42 times and made only 19 free throws. You're not going to win basketball games that way. Why didn't they do that at the Kessler Athletic Center? I have no idea. But they were not hitting free throws, and that was the difference in the game. And number 4, we've got Canisius, and that's where they should be. They're losing. They've lost 3 straight to the top 3 in the MAAC, and they won their first 2. Their last one comes against Manhattan on Sunday. We'll see if they finish out 3-3 against the top 3.
Oh, you're right. They've been locked in that spot for a couple weeks here, and there's a few reasons for that, which we're going to get to when we look ahead to their matchups at Ryder and at Manhattan. First, let's look at that top 3. Where did Iona, Manhattan, and Quinnipiac fall this week?
Iona's number 1, just to go in order there, and they're easily the best team in the MAAC. They're going to win the MAAC. It's not the tournament. I'm not saying that the regular season title, so they'll be in the NIT automatically. Number 2, Quinnipiac, and they've really made a charge here lately. They're ever since Drame came back, and he's been rebounding. He's used to that knee brace. They're an unstoppable force underneath, and then you've got Manhattan at 3, and Canisius and Manhattan are probably maybe interchangeable at this point. They got the same record. We'll see what happens Sunday, but Manhattan, if they keep shooting like that from the free throw line, they're not beating anybody.
Right. Well, you said we'll see what happens Sunday in regards to Canisius and Manhattan. We'll have to get through Friday first at Ryder. That's going to be a tough game. Looking at both these matchups, what are the 2 keys that the Griffs need to focus on if they're going to end the season strong?
Learn to rebound. No, they've got to really rebound the ball better. They're relying on their length a little bit too much instead of getting proper technique on their box out. As I highlighted in a post game, they're really relying on length, and what Quinnipiac did to them is they pinned them underneath the hoop, so they got the long rebounds, the medium rebounds. The only thing Canisius was getting is if it was right under the rim, and that is where Quinnipiac took advantage. That is exactly where Manhattan will take advantage. Iona, you don't have to really worry about it because they're trying to run and gun anyway. They don't care whether they get offensive rebounds. They're just looking to push it. So Manhertz is the only one that really boxes out consistently. Jordan Heath relies on his length. Phil Valenti relies on his length. Josiah, the list goes on. And another thing I've watched is Billy Barron as the point guard is the one that should be leaking out, but all 3 guards have been leaking out rather than crashing the board. So it's a two versus 3 or 4 at that point. You're not going to win that battle on the boards. And so they've got to rebound, and they need to get a secondary scorer aside from Billy, and even a third scorer alongside of Chris Perez. Zach Lewis coming in with 21 against Fairfield was huge. If he can do that consistently, this team will be really good, but they have to get that consistently. It doesn't always have to be from Zach, but they have to get that.
Yeah, you hope Zach Lewis isn't feeling the wear and tear of being a freshman. This is obviously a longer season than he's used to playing, but Billy said to us, it was probably in a postgame here, they really need him to step up down the stretch, and especially once they get into the tournament. And we'll preview that a lot more next week in our #Griff Sports Playoff Mania. John, really quick thoughts from you before we go to break, though.
I think the Rider game is the biggest game this weekend for them. I know Manhattan's one of the top teams, but Rider is a possible matchup for them. So you kind of want to see how you're going to play against a team like that.
Excellent analysis from John Langley, as always. You're watching #Griff Sports. We'll send it back to the desk with Joe and Rox.
Thanks, Kyle and John. Insightful as always. And when we come back, we'll have a recap of the Ice Griff series with Robert Morris, and Griffin writer Alex Beilman will be in the studio to talk about hockey. Also, our Golden Performer of the Week and a special sit-down with Jim and Billy Barron is on the way. Stay right there.
There was one day that we had just done the cardiovascular unit, in class that day. And then right after class, I went over to the Vascular Institute, volunteered, put the scrubs on. And one of the doctors asked me if I wanted to see an open heart surgery. And so I said, yeah,
really?
sure.
I came into Canisius as obviously as a freshman, not really sure what I wanted to do. I ended up taking a digital media arts class, and that really just kind of jump-started, my career.
And I think being where we are in the city and in the world with the medical campus that we have here is really an opportunity that I wouldn't have anywhere else.
It's more than just academics. Meet different people. Go out and do things. There's so much more to college. It's an experience.
I instantly fell in love with doing video work, graphic design. I started pursuing more and more opportunities in the school, whether it was doing admissions videos on the sides. I did a couple videos for alumni relations, the president of the college, and then I actually got noticed last year, and they sent me over to the Philippines to create a feature-length documentary.
I lived with the host family while I took classes in Spanish with Spanish professors at the University of Oviedo, and I was a Spaniard for a semester, and it was the best decision I made as a college student.
And we are back. The Ice Griffs took on Robert Morris on the road last Friday, looking to gain some momentum. The Colonials had other ideas, unfortunately, and the Griffs would fall in this one 4-1 with the lone goal coming from Braden Rigney.
Yeah, and on Saturday, the Griffs would return home to face Robert Morris in the latter half of the home-and-home set. With former Griff and current Ottawa Senator Corey Conacher in the building, the Griffs were able to put together a strong effort, putting away Robert Morris by a score of 6-3. In the scoring barrage, the Griffs would get goals from Doug Jesse, Ralph Kademi, Matthew Grayson, Cody Freeman, Taylor Law, and Mitch McCrank in the win. Rox, what happened with women's basketball this past week?
Well, Joe, the women's basketball team was able to come away with a 56-43 victory on Thursday at St. Peter's. The Griffs were led by Kayla Hohuli with 16 points and 2 rebounds in the win. And on Saturday, the Griffs played at Iona in matchup with one of the conference's best teams. Unfortunately, D'Amico Martinez and Iona were too much for the Griffs, falling in this one 69-52. The Griffs were led by Crystal Porter with 23 points and 7 rebounds.
And moving on, the women's lacrosse team was back in action on Tuesday in a game that was originally supposed to be played in Buffalo at the Dembski Sports Complex. However, due to field conditions, it was moved to Hamilton, New York, where the Griffs took on Colgate. And the game went back and forth. However, the Griffs were able to come away with a 12-11 victory. Senior Maria Cotis, who was in here last week, and junior Tori Quinn led the way for the Griffs with 4 goals apiece. Also, freshman Ashley Heisler scored her first collegiate goal for the Griffs. Up next for the women's lacrosse team, the Ohio State University rolls into Buffalo this weekend for a Saturday afternoon matchup with the Griffs.
And the men's lacrosse team took a trip out to Colorado this past weekend to take on Air Force and nationally ranked Denver. Against Air Force, the Griffs were able to pull out a 7-6 victory, over the Falcons behind a hat trick from Billy Jacoby and a pair of goals off the bench from freshman Louis Vaccaro. The following day, however, against Denver, the Griffs would not be able to handle a number 5 team in the nation as they would fall by a score of 14-3. The Griffs would get goals from the Edwards brothers, Tim and Jeff, as well as Sam Connors.
And the baseball team headed to Charlotte, North Carolina over the weekend to take on Charlotte, and the Griffs would fall in the first 2 games by a score of 6-0 and 4-3. The latter of the 2 games would go into 12 innings. However, the Griffs would salvage the series by picking up a 10-1 victory on Sunday. Devin Stewart picked up the W for the Griffs on the hill. Connor Panis went 3 for 4 with 2 runs scored and 2 RBIs in the game.
And the Griffs softball team traveled to the Holiday Inn Hilltopper Spring Fling at Bowling Green, Kentucky. Unfortunately, in the 5 games the Griffs played, they were unable to pick up a win, losing to Miami of Ohio 5-0, dropping a pair to Western Kentucky 8-1 and 2-1, also falling to Belmont 2-0, and Bradley in a blowout loss 17-0 in 5 innings.
And now we're going to have a special video sit-down with Jim and Billy Barron.
It's been a long road. It's been a difficult road at times. It's taken its turns that I never saw coming, especially when my father got let go of URI, and we came here, and we're just extremely thankful that the community took us in here. I'm able to call this place a second home, which is most important. It's more important than any win can mean to me. So we're just very grateful to end up on our 2 feet at a great school like this, and hopefully we can cap it off in the NCAA tournament. So it was pretty emotional. I think you can see how we started off. We started off really slow, and I think we're just kind of trying to let the emotions out, the pregame ceremony and stuff like that. But being able to walk off this court, hug my father, hug some of my teammates, it was great to finish off on a win. I know we had lost 3 before here, but to finish off on a win, that's how people are going to remember you. He was really focused on those 40 minutes and that game in particular. I think my father was a little more emotional because I think he could really see the end coming and not having another son to coach.
Well, I think they've been all special memories, and I think there's tons of them. I can't particularly think of one or the other, and for Jimmy, going out to Notre Dame. I mean, because I coached there for 6 years, and seeing what an impact he had out in Notre Dame, on that court at the Joyce Center, and to see how he did, with Jimmy playing Syracuse and beating Syracuse, and when he was a little boy, I took him when I was at St. Bonaventure and took him to the game, and all of a sudden now he's a grown-up and he's playing for me, and he had a phenomenal experience. Temple for Billy, beating Temple down at Temple. I mean, we rarely ever beat Temple down at Temple, but so there's just so many great memories.
I think he was really emotional. He was trying to cover it up by really talking about the game a lot, and that's something that he does.
No, we don't even. I mean, you don't need to talk about that. I mean, why? It's like your kid going to college. I mean, until it happens, it really doesn't. There's nothing really to talk about because, again, it's all part of the process. This is what you do. Now you're in your senior year. Now it's towards the end, and you continue to move forward. Well, my concern is, not only for him but the rest of the players. I want them to play as loose and as confident as possible because this is what it's all about. When you're playing college basketball, and I've been through it before. So, I want them to give it their best shot that they can, and to keep coming together.
What we talked about after, it's really starting to set in that this journey is coming to an end pretty fast. But we're just extremely grateful. We're not trying to take it for granted. We're trying to enjoy every little practice we have because after 2-3 weeks, we're never going to be able to play for them again.
I don't think you really worry about it because you can't control it. It's what happens. It's, kids go to college, kids go to schools, kids get married, kids have families. You just keep moving forward and you hope for the best. Because if you put too much time into thinking about it, it'll drive you crazy.
It's gonna be weird for sure. I'm looking forward to it. For him, it's a little more difficult because I'm moving on, and he'll be staying here. So it's gonna be. I think it'll be a little more difficult for him since I'm doing something new and I'm moving on. It'll be difficult. He'll have to adjust. I'll have to adjust. But that's what we do.
And when we come back, we'll have Lauren DeHaan in the studio to talk women's basketball and Alex Beilman in the studio to talk hockey.
sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
Welcome back to Studio B. Kyle Ferrara still here with you, now joined by Alex Beilman, hockey beat writer for the Griffin. Alex, this season for the Ice Griffs has been interesting in that it's been very, very similar to last year. And we saw that when the calendar turned to March last season, all of a sudden the Griffs were able to get hot and go on that magical run that got them their conference championship. Are we going to see something similar this year?
I think we can see something similar this year. They have a lot of depth that I think a lot of people don't really pay attention to. Obviously, Kyle Gibbons is the main attraction, but you've got depth scorers, Patrick Sullivan, Cody Freeman, Doug Jesse on the blue line has been having an outstanding year. The reason it's been a little different is because, unlike last year where they were in a slump and then they got hot, this year they've been kind of on and off both ways. They had a lot of back-to-back series where they've won one, lost one. So that's the only place where I see a difference.
So you think there's still plenty of reason of optimism with this group?
Oh, absolutely.
Two of the guys who really came on strong last March, and it was no surprise, were Tony Capobianco in net and Kyle Gibbons. We'll get to each of them. Let's start with Capo. He was splitting a lot of time with Keegan earlier in the season, but now he's seemed to really seize that role for his own. What's been going on in the goaltending department for the Ice Griffs?
Well, part of it for Capo was just finding his game again. You know, it's tough when you achieve career highs, break records, all that, to come back and match that because you have all those expectations on your shoulders. Keegan Asmundson, when he came in, didn't have anything to worry about, so he's able to play cool, calm, and collected. Capo has rediscovered his game, though. He's been playing great, and they know that next year Keegan will be the starter, so they're not too worried about him getting time right now. They want to make sure they get the most out of Capo while he's still here.
That's what I wanted to ask you about Keegan. What does this time that he got this year mean for him when he takes over next year?
Well, it's given him a lot of confidence, I can tell you that much. Just talking to him, seeing him around, watching him in practice, he looks much improved even over last year alone, let alone his sophomore and freshman seasons.
Moving on to Kyle Gibbons, fresh off a nomination for the Hobie Baker Award. He just got nominated for another recognition, did he not?
Yes, the Lowe's Senior Class Award, which is, it's just sort of another little award that they do for all the major college sports. It's something that he probably has a better chance of winning. It's still going to be a tough thing to win, though.
And one more weekend here before the Atlantic Hockey playoffs start. The Griffs, 2 matchups with arch rival RIT. What can we look forward to Friday and Saturday nights?
The Griffs basically need to repeat their performance from Saturday night's win over Robert Morris. It was one of the most complete games I've ever seen them play this season. 3 power play goals. The offense was clicking at even strength. Penalty kill was great. The goaltending was there. They just need to take that. And like Kyle Gibbons told me earlier this week, I asked him, what do you guys need to do to repeat that? He said, same exact thing. They have to play physical, they have to get the goaltending, and they have to score the goals.
Alex, thanks so much for your input.
Thanks,
and
Kyle.
Always great to get the victory over RIT when you can. Now we're going to go back to Joe at the desk, who is with Lauren DeHaan.
Thank you once again, Kyle and Alex. Should be an interesting couple of weeks for the Ice Griffs as they hope to make a run and hopefully end up back in Rochester for the Atlantic Hockey Frozen Four. I have Lauren DeHaan here, super freshman for the women's basketball team. Now, Lauren, you are from the Rochester area, actually, and coming into this year, you played pretty well. You got injured a little bit early and then came back. What's been kind of the biggest adjustment you've had to make as far as bringing your game from the high school level to the collegiate level?
I'd say easily the biggest change is the speed of play. You have to be quicker on defense, make your cuts faster. Another big difference is the strength. Everyone's stronger. My coach wants me to get ripped next year, so we'll see how that goes, but I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. And what's really been the biggest change to your individual game? Just the whether it's been shooting or something like that. What's something that you've had to work on a little bit more this year as opposed to in high school?
I think just being stronger with my drives.
Also, like coming off of high school, I was the go-to player, so it's a little different being here and being surrounded by other players that are very talented. So I have to take more of a kind of backseat role, fill the spots a little bit, and I think that is just what I'm trying to do this year.
And you know, another thing we talked about, Kyle talked about earlier with Zach Lewis, another strong freshman for the men's basketball team, is has there been a little wear and tear? Are you feeling, you know, your legs maybe are kind of going out from under you? You didn't play 30 games last year, probably, at least in the regular season. Now that's coming up on you. We've got MAACs ahead. Is that something you're feeling a little bit?
Oh, it's definitely wear and tear. When you're practicing 2.5 hours, 6 days a week, it definitely gets tiring. You take lots of ice baths, ice all your injuries. You have to do all of that just to make sure that you're ready to go for game time.
Now, what's been the most exciting moment for you this year in your first year of collegiate basketball?
I think just going into my very first game. Like when I went in, I was so nervous. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then I knocked down the first 3 that I took, and then from there on, I was just like the happiest person. I came out of the game, and everyone was like clapping for me because it was like my first collegiate game, and I was very excited about it.
Well, that is great. And now, coming up next week, obviously this weekend we've got 2 games, a couple of big ones, Ryder and Fairfield, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you guys thinking about this weekend?
It's a big weekend for us. We got to win both to seal that 5th spot. To get the bye in the first round of MAACs. Fairfield will be really tough. They have a lot of good shooters, good posts on the inside. Ryder as well. They have one player who's a star for the MAAC, and so both teams will be very tough, but I think it'll be good competition for us, and I expect us to do well.
And next weekend at the MAAC tournament in Springfield, Mass, what are we looking at?
I'm nervous personally because I've never been in a situation like this. It's totally different from the sectional run that you go through in high school. It's totally different. But I think that our team will pull together. We've had some questionable games where we didn't have a lot of grit, and that's like our team motto this year. So we need to have more grit, and I think we'll pull it out in MAACs.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Freshman Lauren DeHont, make sure to watch her this weekend when we've got the women's basketball closing up at home, their regular season schedule, and then next weekend at the MAAC tournament. Thank you very much. And we'll be right back. We'll have Rox back here, and we'll have our Golden Performer of the Week as well as our upcoming schedule. Stay right there.
Welcome back. The upcoming schedule for our basketball teams looks something like this. The men's basketball team travels to Ryder and Manhattan this weekend, while the women's team will host Fairfield and Ryder, with the Ryder game on Sunday being their senior day. So
yeah, and it'll be a big weekend for both teams. And as for the Griffs Hockey team, they have a home-and-home with RIT Friday and Saturday. Friday's game will be on Time Warner Cable, as well as ESPN3's picked it up. That'll also be senior night on Friday. Big couple of weekends. Our winter sports regular season's over this week.
kind of sad. But
Sad it is.
the men's lacrosse team will play at Cornell on Tuesday, and the women's lacrosse team will host Ohio State this Saturday.
And as for the baseball team, they will head to play Atlantic Sun Conference champion East Tennessee State on the road, while softball will have the week off, and then they will head to Baltimore, Maryland for the Towson Invitational. Next weekend, they'll play games against Albany, Delaware State, and Towson. And Rox, how about our Golden Performer of the Week?
Joe, this week's Golden Performer of the Week is freshman guard Zach Lewis. Lewis had 21 points in the Griffs' victory over Fairfield, and despite the fact that it was senior day, the underclassman put the weight of the offense on his shoulders on a day where Billy Barron only took 8 shots from the field. He hit 5 of 9 field goals, including 4 of 6 from three-point range.
And moving forward to this week's top play, it's a sweet alley-oop from Phil Valenti to Jordan Heath. Here's the Jay Moran and Kyle Ferrara on the call.
Griffs pass ahead. Phil Valenti just checks into the game, goes alley-oop to Jordan Heath, jams it home.
Yeah, Jordan Heath with the alley-oop right in front of C-Block. That got everybody going, and something to remember him by in his last home.
So if you take a look underneath the basket, I was there, I promise. But as I like to say, if you can't take the Heath, get out of the kitchen. This has been #Griff Sports. Don't forget you can find us online at griffintv.net. Search for us on Facebook and follow us at Griff Sports 4 on Twitter. Stay tuned because next week we'll be coming at you on Tuesday for #Griff Sports Playoff Mania episode. Rox, should be a fun week.
Definitely should be. Joe, one question. Do you think our team has what it takes to take the championship this year?
Our men's basketball team does have what it takes. It's going to be all about the draw. We'll see what happens this weekend. It's going to be exciting. I know I'll be there. Kyle will be there. John will be there. Jordan will be there. It'll be fun. I'm Joe Rutigliano. This has been #Griff Sports.
And I'm Roxanne Hernandez. Good night, everybody.
That's fantastic.